Hey guys, welcome back to the Van Marie podcast. I hope you're having a good week. I'm currently driving through Utah right now, which wasn't my plan originally, but I'm having a good time enjoying the desert. I can't seem to leave the Southwest, no matter how hard I try. I'm back at you with another janky mic setup. I really don't want to talk about it. Please forgive me. And yeah, so driving through Utah this week has reminded me of the first time I ever visited Moab with three of my close friends at the time. And we had a blast, loved it, but we did get ourselves into a little bit of trouble on the trip. So I thought I would tell you the story about four girls on a road trip, three helpful strangers, two walkie-talkies, and 0 jumper cables. I'm sitting here with some strawberry bubbly water, so grab yourself a drink and let's get into it. So the story starts in the summer of 2018 when me and three of my friends decided to take a road trip from Lafayette, Louisiana all the way up to San Francisco, California. This was one of the first really good road trips that I had taken with friends that really set in stone the way that I love to travel. At that point, I had done a few solo trips, but I was really still definitely getting my bearings on this type of travel and lifestyles similar to this one. And this experience really gave me the confidence to do the research and find those free campsites pretty much anywhere in the United States, because this was the first time that I had any experience doing this. So we pull up to a BLM spot right outside of Canyonlands National Park in Utah, and it was a gorgeous spot. We were really only supposed to stay there one night, and we ended up staying 2 because we loved it that much. We pulled up the first night, and it was dark out because we had to drive through the night to get there. I was the one driving, and I'm pretty sure we all slept in the car that night because we did not feel like setting up a tent. And we spent the whole next day really exploring the national park. And to this day, Canyonlands is one of my favorite national parks that I have been to, and it wasn't even in the original itinerary, which I find really interesting. So the second night we had a blast. Honestly, I remember cooking next to a fire that we had going, watching the sunset over the sandstone rocks, and just having a blast, having no service and camping. And the next morning, I was woken up by my friend Sammi, who was informing us that the battery in our car was dead. And that was a very interesting awakening at like maybe 9 o'clock in the morning, and it was very hot because it's the desert, and I'm like, what is going on? All I want to do is be sleeping right now, but we have an issue. And from what I remember, Sammy's side of the story is she woke up pretty early that morning and found out that the batteries were dead, but didn't want to wake any of us, so she went for a walk and journaled and did her normal everyday morning routine and waited until what she felt like was a reasonable hour to wake us up and try to assess the situation that we were in. And basically what we assumed happened is the night before, when we were packing and unpacking and getting things out of the cars, we left the doors open and the lights were automatic, so they were on all night, and so that drained our car battery. But as we're trying to problem solve, we realize we don't have any cell service, and we also don't have any jumper cables in the vehicle. So we're really feeling like we're in between a rock and a hard place, trying to figure out what we're gonna do. And we're a good 1.5 miles up a very bumpy dirt road before we get to a main road. So we decided to pull out some walkie-talkies that my other friend Alex had packed. And Alex was the kind of packer at this time where she had so many random things that me, being the like raging minimalist that I was at the time, was like, why do we even need that? Like, that's so unnecessary. But she decided to pack some walkie-talkies, and honestly, it was in this situation that we needed something like that. So thank goodness she packed them. And we decided to split into groups of 2. There was 4 of us. So 2 of us were going to stay back at camp, and 2 of us were going to go see about getting help. And we were going to try to tackle the situation one step at a time. So Alex and Sammy start running down the dirt road, and I tell them every couple hundred yards to check in because we don't know what the range is for these walkie-talkies, but I presume it's not long enough for us to communicate back and forth between the national park and the campsite that we're at, but I wanted to have an update and know where they were, as long as possible. So they give us signals as they're going up the road, and we can hear them for the majority of the way, and then at some point they kind of cut out when they get to the main road. So I'm sort of freaking out because I don't know what's going on. I don't have control in this situation, and I don't like it at all. And I keep trying to radio them, and I have no idea what's going on. And then at one point, Alex comes through on the radio and is trying to tell me what's going on. And it's all confusing, and it's freaking me out because she goes, well, Sammi just got in a car or whatever, and I was like, Sammi got in a car? Like, what? The whole point of us splitting up into two groups is that no one was alone. Like, what the heck? This is crazy. And anyways, because I can't really hear Alex, I wait until she gets back to our campsite. She's like running down the dirt road, and she fills us in on what happened. And basically what happened was they got to the main road, and Sammi was trying to flag down people and couldn't get anyone to stop. And at one point, she literally just got into the middle of the road and like forcibly made the next car stop, which is so ballsy. I don't think I would ever do that, to be honest with you. And she asked them for help, and they were going the opposite direction than we needed to go, so she let them go, and then she stopped the next car, and this is when we encountered the first stranger that helped us out. Basically, the plan at this point in time was for Alex and Sammi to hitchhike a ride into the national forest in order to A, get service, to call for help, B, talk to a ranger, or just in general find help. And so when this very packed car pulled up and Sammi asked for a ride, they only had one spot available. And so Alex and Sammi kind of looked at each other trying to assess the situation, and Sammi said that she would go, and she felt comfortable enough to go into the national park by herself. And so that's the decision that they made. And so Sammi hopped in the car and started her journey into the national park trying to find help, and Alex ran back down the dirt road to meet me and Danielle, who were at the campsite. And at this point, I was very concerned because Sammi was alone and there was no way for us to communicate back and forth. And basically the plan at this point was, if we didn't hear from her within the next 3 or so hours, then we would have to go and call for help somehow because we were concerned for her safety. So we just sat and we packed up camp and we waited, and it was crazy, to be honest. That was very difficult for me as someone who likes to take charge and control a situation and know what's going on. Like, I hate feeling like I don't know what's going on and, that my friend could potentially be in danger, but that's what we did. All the while, Sammi made it to the national park, went to the ranger station and talked to a ranger, and the ranger basically told her, we can't help you because you're outside the bounds of the national park, and so you're out of our jurisdiction, so we can't help you. And she was like, okay, great. And she didn't really have great cell service either, so she was really just trying to ask around, trying to figure out what was going on and what her options were. And they were like, your best bet is to call a tow truck. And the tow truck company told her it was going to be like $300 and was going to take like 3 to 4 hours to get to us because we were so remote, or even up to 6 hours, I believe. So anyways, Sammi decided that that was just not a viable option for us. Because who wants to spend $300 to wait 6 hours to be towed when we didn't really feel like we needed to be towed? We just needed a jump, right? She decided to take a last-ditch effort and ask everyone in the parking lot of the ranger station if they had jumper cables. And I remember her telling me she walked around and everyone said no, and like no one could help her. And she was like, what the heck? Like, everyone's being so unhelpful in this situation. Then she encountered 2 middle-aged couples, and they were like, yeah, we have jumper cables, but we're on our way to a hike right now. And so basically what ended up happening is the 2 husbands of the middle-aged couples dropped off the wives to go for a hike. They went and picked up like the extra car and the dogs and headed out to come and help us. So we're sitting there at the campsite waiting, and then we hear these two cars barreling down this dirt road, and we see this Jeep with like Sammi hanging out the side, and these two strangers were the next people that helped us out in this situation. And there was a dog hanging out the window of the other cars. These two cars pull up next to us, and these two middle-aged dads or men helped us out. They had like their whole toolbox, their two dogs running around, and they gave us a jump. And I even remember them like cleaning the battery terminals because there was a bit of corrosion on them, and they really sent us on our way. And thank goodness for, you know, the three strangers who helped us out, the one that drove Sammi into the park, and then the two who ended up helping us, having jumper cables and giving us a jump. So we decided to head into the national park after this to kind of assess the situation. And I remember Sammi calling her mom because we were driving what was like a family vehicle and being like, hey, this is what happened. And the mom was like, oh shoot, like I really haven't replaced the battery on that car in like 10 years, like it's probably just a really bad battery. You guys should go get it checked out and maybe replace it. And so we started researching the next closest town or city that we could go to the shop and get the battery tested out. But like I said, our service was pretty limited. There was no one there to really help us. And we ended up deciding to go to Moab, even though it was pretty out of our way. And we went to the shop to get a mechanic to look at it. Luckily, they were able to fit us in. And I remember at that time being very worried that this mechanic was going to try to scam us, being four women who had no idea what was going on. And I'm pretty sure I accused him of like not getting an accurate reading on the tool that he used to test our batteries, even though I had no idea what I was talking about at the time. But it ended up being that we had a bad battery, and so we got it replaced, and we were on our way. And we didn't have any more issues the entire rest of the road trip. Everything went smoothly, and luckily no other major issues happened. And it was a really good trip. So, all of that to say, I definitely learned on that trip to pack jumper cables, research campsites well, maybe pack myself a few walkie talkies just in case. And yeah, thank goodness for the generosity of strangers. So, if you're one of those three strangers that helped out these young girls, 4 years ago, hit me up. Let's be friends. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.